Here's another example of black box modeling, black box diagram generation, whatever you want to call it. This design is going to be generate a black box diagram for a relatively simple coffee maker. So I don't know much about coffee makers. In fact, I don't know anything about it. I'm more of a tea mind myself. So anyway, let's draw this thing. Knowing nothing, the good place to start is with a black box. Coffee maker. Okay, I got a box with a label. Everything looks good on that. Next up here is to kind of read the example problem and see what I have to do to this thing. It has two control knobs, so we'll put that in there. I'm going to use some special notation here. This little slash notation with the 2 indicates there's 2 control signals. We use that extensively in digital design. It's usually, I call them bus bars. I'm not sure what the world calls them here. But what else do we have in here? It's a coffee maker, so it's going to need some type of power. And what else do we have in this thing? Well, it's a coffee maker, so water is going to go into this thing. And speaking of which, coffee is going to come out of this thing. Okay, looking good. I'm trying to think what else this might have. Certainly at some point I have to put in some coffee beans. And it looks like those are going to go in, but guess what? The coffee beans come out also. So at some point I'm going to grind the coffee beans, put it in there, run the water through it, and take the coffee beans out. So I've indicated that with this bidirectional signal right there. And I can't really think of anything else for this thing. Looks good enough. Okay, so that's the high level model. The problem states that I want 2 levels of hierarchy. This is the highest level. I'm going to try to figure out what may be inside this box. And what I'm thinking here, it probably has a hot water heater. Hot water heater. Yeah, that's good. I think that hot water heater is going to necessarily feed into like a coffee strainer. Keep it short there, coffee strainer. So we'll just write that in there. This is somewhere in the interior of this thing. I don't know what's going on inside this thing, so I'm going to the catch-all control unit. And that works really good. So the control unit here is certainly going to be taking the controls from the outside world. We'll put a little arrow on that thing. Let's see what else we got. I'm gonna look over here and get clues for what I want in this thing. Okay, so the water necessarily is going to go into the water heater. What else do we have here? The coffee is going to come out of this thing. What else do we have? The coffee beans are probably going to go into the strainer. This was a bidirectional signal. I know I'm going to have to fix that. So I'm ready to kind of abstract this to a higher level. So drawing that top level box here. Doesn't really matter when I MKR. I notice I'm matching the label of these 2 boxes to indicate they are the same. So I don't like this. I'm gonna go ahead and erase part of this. Okay, so I'm gonna draw that again. The double-headed arrow once again. Coffee beans, indicating that the coffee beans are going to go into the strainer. So the water is going to go into the water heater unit, which is going to be hot water. It's going to be fed through the strainer. If the coffee goes, coffee beans are going to come in and out of this thing. Coffee is going to come out of this. I guess the last thing we really need here is control unit here. And I'm going to say, we did forget power too. So the control unit is going to control when this hot water is going to turn on. And I'm going to say, just for the kicks, I'm going to say that hot water heater is going to be able to tell the control unit the water's hot or the water's done or something like that. And so the last thing I need to do here, represent, is this power. So the power came over from this left diagram, so I have to include it in there. And I don't really know what it's going to do. That's not what I want. Power is going to go into the heater unit, but I'm going to say power is also going to magically go into the control unit. Wow, looks like a coffee maker, sort of. good enough. Once again, don't know anything about coffee makers, but generally speaking, I came up with this semi-viable 2 levels of black box diagram modeling how this unit might work. I didn't know anything at the start, but after thinking about it, I feel like I do know a little bit on this thing. That's the nature of black box modeling.